more than 1,500 years ago in the 12th year of King Jinheng. Silla is the weakest of the three nations. The previous king was in trouble, the apostles rebelled. King Jinheng named Marxung was threatened with his life due to the unstable royal power. Empress Dowager Ji so hid the identity of Marxung. Let the chandelier wander in the folk to protect life. Hua Gong, a close friend of the previous king. Dissatisfied with the Empress Dowager Ji SOS intervention in the main direction, she was imprisoned by her. Many years later, Empress Dowager Ji so came to see Hua Gong in prison. Ask him to stand at the grave of the sons of nobles and soldiers. Form a team of guards loyal to the imperial court. Empress Dowager Ji so promised Hua Gong that, once the guard was formed, she would return the throne to Marxung and never interfere in politics again. After growing up, Marxung returned to the palace without the permission of Empress Dowager Ji so to regain the throne, because the foreign favorites and the apostles all sipped the throne, seeing Marxung as a thorn in the eye who wanted to assassinate him. In order to protect Marxung, Empress Dowager Ji so ordered the killing of everyone who saw him. Anonymous since childhood, has been abandoned in a convenient village called Mang Mang. Without even a name, people often call him by the nickname of Cockite. His best friend, Mamu, had a necklace with him. It is important to find a sister and father. In order to return to the capital to find her family, Mamu decided to risk herself in the capital, praying to help his friend reunite with his family. So, on a quiet late night, the two of them climbed the wall into the capital. The next morning, Praying and Mamu went to the pub to find their relatives. Attracted to a group of people who were gambling, Kaudu discovered the name of the crooked face in the game, deceiving ordinary people to participate. Praying that he was disgruntled, took out his head as a special bet and surrounded his legs for his fraud. However, the identity of the non-capital person of the cashew bridge was quickly exposed, causing the two to be chased by the group of the scarred face. Pray to overthrow the discussion and run away in times of chaos. Azo came from a poor background. His father was an Igong. Azo works at a pub. She is good at storytelling and is loved by everyone. Ma Deng overheard Azo's story. Realizing that listening to her story can help him overcome his insomnia, he decides to find Azo. The pub owes Azo 3 months' salary. When Azo came to demand, the boss not only did not pay but also scolded her for being convenient and a mixer. Angry, Azo drank 3 bottles of wine from the restaurant to pay off debts and then got drunk. Azo was drunk on the road just as the horse gate guard rushed over, about to stab her. Praying for the devil rushed out in time to save Azo and fell in love with her. Mamu happened to meet Deng's mother, who was sneaking into the restaurant. Empress Dowager Daiso's relatives found out and immediately chased after the Mamu. Luckily, the cashew prayer appeared in time to save him. Mamu recounted the story of meeting the king of the palace outside the translation shop to the doctor. I pray that Mamu must be wrong. The king of the palace will not appear among the common people. In order to avoid Mamu's identity being exposed and hunted down, pray to take Mamu's necklace, help him find his sister and pay it back. Mamu saw a girl wearing a necklace like herself at the door of the green floor, hurriedly chased after him but was pushed out by the flow of people above. Mamu didn't give up, pretending to be an attendant and mixed into the green room to look for that girl. Azo was very skillful, often going to the green room to teach the girls the art of following and telling them stories, but unaware that the group of nobles, including Suho and Pansy, were eavesdropping in the next room. Ma Deng was also in another room next to her, listening to Azo's story. After entering the green room, Mamu saw that Azo was about to call her, but accidentally. And it must be Kong Sung, with the understanding of the Pansy to be beaten by him to be a lack of quality. The noise of the two attracted the attention of Suho, Pansy, and the others. Just when Kong Sung was about to kill Mamu, the prayer came in time. Pray to the tavern, draw a circle on the ground. He arrogantly told them that anyone who dared to enter the circle would be killed. Kong Sung did not believe that he lost to a convenient person, joined the battle with the Kaudu but was defeated miserably. Pray for grace to lead Mamu away. At the time of the chaos of the green floor, Mo Deng found Azo. He told her that he could only sleep well when he heard her tell the story and offered to pay her a bribe. Azo was very surprised when he heard this, thinking that he was a pervert. Although she didn't want to tell him the story, but for the sake of money, she reluctantly agreed to this transaction. Pray for the dispatcher carrying Mamu's necklace everywhere in search of news. The owner of the pawn shop saw this necklace and immediately informed Anzi Kong, because Anzi Kong's son, who was kidnapped in the past, also wore this necklace. Anzi Kong hurriedly went to the green room to inquire, but was told that the 2 young men had left. Mamu told the bridge that he had seen a girl wearing an identical necklace in the green room. May he be encouraged to continue his investigation. The two of them were about to go back to the green floor to look for Azo when Kaju suddenly fell ill, dizzy, and couldn't stand up. At this time, the Mamu killers arrived, killing both the Ka and the Mamu. Mamu used her body to shield the eunuch, to pretend to be an escape. Emorong couldn't bear to kill Mamu, who had seen his true appearance. But when he came to stop him, it was too late. Sui saw Emorong's sleeve, mistakenly thinking that he was the mastermind. Anzi Kong traced the blood trail to find the prayer, and the Mamu was unconscious. When he saw Mamu wearing a necklace, he realized that Mamu was his son. Mamu finally got to see his father before he died, and he passed away peacefully. Anzi Kong fell back in pain. After burying the Mamu, he took the eunuch home to treat his wounds. When Azo was telling Emorong's story, they both continued to sleep. She woke up to find that she had slept in the green room all night, worried about how to explain to her father. But when she was afraid to go home, trying to explain why she didn't come home all night, Anzi Kong didn't save her. He only told Azo that there was a serious patient at home and temporarily did not accept any other patients. 5 days later, Kadu regained consciousness. When Anzi Kong announces that Mamu is dead, he angrily asks why he abandoned Mamu in the village. Otherwise, he wouldn't have slipped the carpet under someone else's blade today. Anzi Kong painfully blamed herself for not being able to prevent her son from being cornered. Anzi Kong prepared a pass for the Cashew Bridge so that he could return to the convenience village. Praying decided to stay to avenge Mamu. He skipped eating and sleeping at night. Azo was worried about his health and immediately brought rice into the room. May he not see Azo, only hear her voice. She remembered that her mother had told him that her sister Azo was very kind and gentle, and she even joked that she would marry her to him. She couldn't help but shed tears, came to her mother's grave, and vowed to avenge him. Returning to the village, he prayed for the messenger to report the quality of the Mamu to the Great Urge to live with him. The Great Urge advised him to live peacefully in the village of the people, not to return to the capital again. May the Jew still resolutely go for revenge. The Empress Dowager Di So did not agree to let Mark Dung ascend the throne immediately. She demanded that all those who were eyeing the new throne be removed for him to be crowned. The Empress Dowager officially promulgated her will, giving full authority to Guogong. Guogong named the guard team a lotus, and the notice was posted all over the country. The tomb of young men from aristocratic backgrounds to serve the imperial court. The cunning ministers in the court forced the Empress Dowager to obtain the consent of Mark Dung before establishing the flower of the lotus. Actually, it is to find the right mark. Ask for a sword from the shop to take revenge. On the way back, he almost had to Mark Dung, and he recognized Mark Dung's sleeve. Mistaking him for the perpetrator, he immediately followed. Mark Dung was actually chasing Azor when he found out that he was being followed. He thought that he liked the guest and hurriedly saved Azor. Pray to catch up with Mark Dung, wanting to avenge Mamu. At this time, Mark Dung knew that the main thing was that the bad guy was ordered to be assassinated by the Empress Dowager. He didn't want to harm Kadu. Waidu swung his sword and rushed towards Mark Dung, as if he saw Azor standing across from him. The prayer found that the person behind the door was Azor. He immediately asked her why she was here. Mark was worried that he would harm Azor, so he attacked him from behind to save her. During the fight, Mark Dung's ring symbolizing the king's status fell to the ground. Picked up by the request, Mark Dung retreated, escaping. At the tavern, he heard the customers talking and ridiculing Mark Dung for being weak. Hiding and hiding, not daring to show his face. Hearing this, Mark Dung is determined not to live his life on the run again. In order to help the Queen Dowager go to establish the Lotus, Huagong paid Azor to investigate the lives of noble princes in the capital. Azor handed over the notebook of the private lives of these princes to the pawn shop owner and Huagong. At the same time explained to them about these people, including the handiwork of the handyman, the smart hand, and the strong tiger. These aristocratic princes all despise each other, often provoking and fighting. After Azor finished reporting, he returned home and found the Cashew Bridge standing in front of the door. I thought he was watching me. Pray for Azor to know that she is in Yigong's daughter. Azor saw that he was wearing the clothes he had sewn for his brother, and asked him about his identity, and moved to relieve the siege of the kite, because the law of the Sinla stipulates that people are not allowed to enter the capital. The people of the capital harbor convenience for the people to commit the crime of bamboo bags. So Nditsong suggested that he pretend to be his son. On the one hand, he could continue to treat him. On the other hand, Nditsong believes that his son Sangu also wants the same. Pray for an agreement. And Igong told Azor that the main thing was her brother, and showed the Mamu's necklace to Azar. Azor is suspicious because he has no scars since childhood and does not look like him. In order for Azor to believe, pray to tell him the childhood stories that Mamu had told him. Azor is still skeptical. Azor missed the prayer that had saved him when he was drunk. I hope he doesn't remember this. But unexpectedly, she realized that the drunk girl that day was her. Azor felt very embarrassed. Markdung was worried that praying for something would harm Azor, so he went to An Yigong's house to look for her. He saw that Azor was free to give everyone medical examinations and felt that she was very kind. Markdung kept himself. King Jinhung, like an incompetent person, only knew how to hide. But Azor says that falling in love as a child is not a sin. And understanding King Jinhung, he must also be very miserable. Markdung was very touched by Azor's words. The eunuchs criticized Empress Dowager Gxo for not arbitrarily establishing a lotus flower. At least you have to wait after Jinhung ascends the throne before doing it. And asked the Empress Dowager to hand over the Jinhung out during the ceremony to celebrate his birthday. In order to help the Empress Dowager Gxo establish the lotus, Huagong laid out a plan to forge a letter to Pan Ji, Suho and other noble princes. Asked them to go to the Mule Well for a duel. The ceremony to celebrate King Jinhung's birthday was held as planned. The great gods such as Uncle Dung Siu, Hua Bei and the great gods. To express dissatisfaction with the Empress Dowager, Gxo was sick at home. Markdung wanted to become a flower to regain the kingship, so he went to Huagong. Huagong asked Markdung why he wanted to make a rose. Markdung did not reveal his identity, only said that he wanted to overthrow the empress. Huagong thought that Markdung only wanted to lie, so he did not agree to accept him into the lotus. Pray to see the Empress Dowager's ceremony. It was discovered that the guard next to the Queen Mother was the one who killed the ghost. Kadu rushed forward to kill him, but his strength was thin and he was captured by the guards. Empress Dowager Gxo ordered the execution of the eunuch. And Jikong hurriedly ran to beg the Empress Dowager to spare her life. Based on the old relationship between the two, I would like to ask for a replacement. Empress Dowager Gxo imprisoned her in prison, telling him that she would kill Jikong and Azo. If he wanted to save them, he had to follow her arrangements. Azo waited for Jikong and prayed at the prison door. Xiao Xiao walked out alone, fainting in Azo's arms. This scene was interrupted when he saw Jikong wake up, finding himself in the palace. He angrily scolded Empress Dowager Gxo for kidnapping his wife and son. He even threw away his son in a convenient village, making him live without substance. Empress Dowager Gxo threatened Jikong if he did not follow her arrangements, he would suffer even more. Azo carried the unconscious Cashew Bridge home. He woke up and told Azo that Jikong would be fine and that he would protect him and Azo. Suho and Pan Ji followed the appointment letter to the Mule Well to duel. Just when they were fighting chaotically, the Forbidden Army suddenly appeared, taking the excuse of insulting the god of the well, blinding them and escorting them to the courtroom. Uncle Deng Chao didn't want to manage Pan Ji's affairs, but Pan Ji was the future of his family. So he was forced to lead the ministers to beg the Empress Dowager Gxo. Empress Dowager Gxo made a condition, asking Suho, Pan Ji and other noble princes to establish a rose. The eunuchs were forced to agree to the conditions of the Empress Dowager Gxo. Uncle Deng Chao thought that even if the rose flower was established, he could turn it into his own force. Empress Dowager Gxo established a flower for Huagong. At the same time, she suggested that she and Huagong could both choose a person they liked for the roses without any conditions. After being released home, Pan Ji still resolutely did not want to become Queen Dowager Jizo's rose. Pan Ji's father takes him to see Uncle Rong Xiao. After hearing the story, Uncle Rong Xiao slapped Pan Ji's father hard, to warn Pan Ji that if he doesn't want to be retaliated against by others, he must make an effort to gain power. After putting the Cashew Bridge into the lotus, the Empress Dowager Gxo released Jigong, and Jigong advised him to leave this place, and being a rose flower for Empress Dowager Gxo would only make her suffer even more. Pray for the determination to become a lotus flower to protect the Azo and the peace of mind. Markdung went to Huagong and told him that he did not want to destroy the country, helping cashew blossoms become more convenient. And Jigong asked Azo to teach him some basic etiquette and skills. Starting from learning letters, Azo is dedicated to teaching prayer to write each stroke. Praying for the cashew was very shy, but under the patient guidance of Azo, he finally learned how to write his name. Azo borrowed his own horse, intending to teach him how to ride a horse, and carefully explain what to look out for when riding. Cashew Bridge has mastered the basic skills. At this time, Azo's horse was beaten by a child who was playing nearby. Make it panic, waiting for Azo to run like a fly. Kaju hurriedly chased after him. Markdung happened to see it, and immediately galloped after Azo. Mark Dung and pray for the fact that he saved the terrified Azo. Pray for comfort Azo who was sobbing. Mark Dung saw his bracelet in his hand and prayed. Realizing that he was the one who attacked him that day, he immediately doubted the identity of the Caucasus. Suho is having a headache because of the lack of members for the team. I happened to see Mark Dung and pray for a galloping horse. I thought that they would definitely be able to help me defeat Panji. Suho chases after Mark Dung and asks for a prayer, inviting them to join his team. Play a soccer match with Panji. Azo thinks this is a good opportunity to come into contact with the Roses. Immediately encouraging the prayer to participate, the curious crowd gathered to watch. However, because it was the first time playing this game, the team still did not understand the rules of the game, so the whole team was ahead. Ka learned from the defeat in the first half. After the second half started, because he did not know the rules of the game, Trang kicked an own goal. But in the following rounds, Ka Kai showed his talent, leading Suho's team to victory. Mark Dung was very jealous of the performance of the bridge. Especially when she saw Azo admiring the prayer, Trang felt very uncomfortable. In the second half, the Cashew team went all out, won and received praise from Azo. The scarred face, since the time he was exposed to be a fool, has always hated him. He saw the Cashew Bridge during the soccer match and learned of the relationship between the Cashew Bridge and the Azo. Azo looked at the Cashew prayer with different eyes, prayed for the Cashew to take the initiative to carry the injured Azo home. The two people cleared up the misunderstanding. The appointment ceremony of the Lotus Flower was about to start. Azo wanted to choose a hairpin for the Cashew Bridge, but was robbed by the scarred man. Praying for the chasing, Mark Dung saw that the praying for the cashier was in a hurry to leave and also curiously followed. As a result, both of them were cornered by the group of the scarred face. Songu and Jizue were cut off by the crippled people and hung in the slaughterhouse in order to save Azo. The two people quarreled and brawled because of a misunderstanding before. Jizue learns that Songu is Azo's older brother, erases his hostility with him, and the two prepare to cooperate to escape from this place. The crippled man sent a butcher to kill them. Songu and Jizue coordinated, stealing from the butcher's hand, after a period of fighting, recklessly escaped from the slaughterhouse. The scarred man was about to kill Azo when he heard a strange noise in the slaughterhouse and hurriedly ran in. Songu and Jizue attacked the group of crippled people from behind, successfully saving Azo. Escaping from danger, Azo hugged Songu and cried loudly. Jizue let Songu hug Azo in front of him while he was behind to help. Songu finished eating the cards for Azo and returned to the slaughterhouse and joined forces with Jizue to defeat the cripple-faced man. After that, two people rushed to the appointment ceremony of the Rose. The noble princes all arrived on time to attend the appointment ceremony of the Roses. Empress Dowager Jisua discovered that Songu had not arrived, and Huagong also discovered that Jizue was absent. Empress Dowager Jisua waited for Songu for a long time and finally had to start the ceremony, and appointed Huagong as the Fengyu master, fully in charge of the affairs of the Rose. When the ceremony was about to end, Songu and Jizue rushed over. Empress Dowager Jisua was very relieved to see Songu, but when she saw Jizue following behind, it was like fighting on an equal footing. The lotus flowers on the spot take an oath forever protect the Divine Kingdom. Swear allegiance to the Divine Kingdom and the Emperor Jinheng. Ji Gong was extremely angry when he learned about Azo being kidnapped. Songu promised to protect Azo, not to let her be threatened again. Experiencing the dangerous situation just now, Azo no longer has a Songu chain and the people accept him. Azo took advantage of Songa's sleep, changed the medicine for the wound on his hand and confessed his thoughts. She had always felt hopeless, and now she had discovered that Songu was her support. Actually, Songu just pretended to be asleep, and after listening to Azo's sincere words, he grabbed her wrist, and I began to get scared because of the dust. I am afraid that I will hurt the worm. I am afraid that I will not be able to protect the worm. Rely on me, you will not be lonely in the future. Azo dressed the Songu in clothes made by her own hands and said that she would go watch the Songu parade. Empress Dowager Ji-song was very angry because the label became a lotus. The person next to the Queen Mother reminded her that Mark Dung was in the lotus flower, on the contrary very safe. It is difficult for people to guess that in the lotus flower there is a hidden image of the King of the Wild. The slapped face told the story of the bridge impersonating the name of Songu mixed into the roses for Mark Dung to hear. Mark Dung Chao thinks that Songu was recruited by Empress Dowager Ji-song into the rose flower because he met the King of Irises. Kong Sung, because he did not have a good background, could not enter the lotus, extremely resentful. Mark Rong Chao decided to take advantage of these people's resentment towards Empress Dowager Ji-song to win them over. Azo gathered in the crowd to watch the Songu parade of roses. Kong Sung into the crowd. Azo was knocked down. accidentally tearing Kong Sung's shirt. Kong Sung realized that Azo was the storytelling girl in the jade sand and was going to drag Azo away. Ji Zue stopped Kong Sung and chased him away with some silver bags. Azo thank you Ji Zue. Ji Zue took the opportunity to draw a tick on Azo's hand. Said that when she finished replying, she would delete it. Hua Gong led the roses to the heart of the gate, the training base, and made them drink 9 cups of brandy at once. Everyone drank quickly, then let everyone draw lots to decide on accommodation. Also tell them that if they are not satisfied with the accommodation arrangement by lottery, it is possible through scrambling to get the desired roommate. Banji and the others despised Songgu, beating Songgu drunk like a word. After sobering up, Songgu fought back one after another, experiencing a vicious battle. In the end, Ji Zue, Songgu, Banji, Suho and Zhuahui shared a room with 5 people. Ji Zue, Songgu, Banji, Suho and Zhuahui were fighting with dustbags in the city hall when Hua Gong's people came to the compartment. Hua Gong immediately declared the rules of the ferry, including all roses must be independent, without servants and servants. Do not leave the ferry gate on your own, do not actively cause fights, and must teach on time to participate in training. After hearing the whirlpool, Azo stayed at home and didn't hear from Songgu, very worried and missed him deeply. During the meal, Banji provoked Songgu, mocking his sister Azo for going to tell a story in Dakai. Songgu heard the thunderous battle but tried to hold back the candle. Banji realizes that Azhao is Songgu's weakness. So he deliberately said in front of everyone that Azo is also pretty and can be used as a concubine. Songgu couldn't bear to humiliate Azo, so he immediately hit him. So the other roses also took the opportunity to fight each other. At this time, Hua Gong appeared, wanting to investigate their responsibility, especially severely punishing the person who took action first. Songgu took the initiative to admit that he was the one who took the initiative first. The ferry gate had only been established for a few days and everyone had fought bloodily, afraid that the Empress Dowager Ji So would get angry when she found out. The pawn shop owner came to Azo and told her to quickly go to the ferry gate to save the injured. Azo went to the ferry gate to look everywhere, but he couldn't find Songgu. Gdui looked for Azo, begged her to help him sleep for a while, he hadn't slept for 4 days. Azo felt sorry for Gdui, so he let him sleep on her. Azo found Songgu. Songgu was very worried about Azo's safety, and told her to leave here quickly. But Azhao still insisted on applying medicine to Songgu and left him a box of ointment to use when necessary. Suho criticized Panji for causing trouble first, so Songgu took action, and at the same time questioned the reason why Panji came to be the village flower. Panji thought about his father being humiliated, but still walked away. Hua Gong swallowed the Songgu alone into a room, and asked him if he was afraid. Songgu said he was not afraid because there were people who needed protection. Empress Dowager GXO went to the ferry gate to meet Hua Gong and asked Han about the situation of the village flowers. Hua Gong told the story of Songgu to the Empress Dowager and let the Empress Dowager meet Songgu. Empress Dowager GXO was very angry because Songgu violated the rules, telling him to make a good village flower to make amends. After that, the Empress Dowager GXO warned Gdui not to continue to test her patience or she would permanently prevent him from taking a seat. Empress Dowager GXO asked Hua Gong to obey her arrangement. If she expelled the village flowers on her own, she would revoke her power. The ministers wanted Hua Gong to treat their son well, so they all took the initiative to annoy him, but Hua Gong was not moved in the slightest. Hua Gong threatened Songgu. If Songgu insisted on staying as a village flower, then he will slowly torture you until you have to leave the village. Hua Gong taught village flowers the subject of culture, asking everyone to do an essay on the morality of the sutra on the topic of water being king. This was a very difficult task, and after meeting Songgu, Azo was even more worried. Especially after knowing the topic of the village flower, Azo recklessly went to Songgu, offered to help him solve the essay and hold his hand to finish writing the article on morality. The two people's hearts were getting closer and closer, and this scene was seen by Ji Yun, which made him feel very uncomfortable. Ji was unlucky because he wanted to approach Azo, so he deliberately asked Azo to repay the debt on the condition that he had to learn to write with him. To help him recognize the letters, Azo draws each letter into a picture and explains the meaning of the picture to him. Ji asked her to draw the word king. Azo explained that the king was pitiful. It is impossible to appear like a young bird that has fallen out of the nest since childhood. Ji was touched by Azo's explanation, feeling that he was also very pitiful, and unconsciously kissed Azo. Ji was lucky to forcibly kiss Azo. Azo was very angry, and just as he was about to scold him, he heard Songgu's footsteps and Azo hurriedly ran away. Songgu is very upset about Ji thus insulting Azo, and warns Ji Su not to go near Azo in the future. But Ji unfrankly said that she liked Azo. Hua Gong teaches the roses, asking them to build a sense of collectivity, not to act alone. Songgu was sad because of Azo's affairs, and went out alone in the evening to relax, unexpectedly discovered by Huagong. Huagong immediately punished Songgu and his roommates for carrying a palanquin for him. The next day, Ji Luk took the initiative to find Azo, wanting to be friends with Azo, but Azo did not appreciate it. There was still a warm feeling about being forcibly kissed, but the chance of acupuncture points made him unable to move. Songgu doesn't know how to be a good brother, so he goes to ask Suho, who has a younger sister. Suho told him that there was no need for a guest teacher between brother and sister. Brother was obliged to teach his sister strongly. Songgu understood without revealing it, and then followed the way Suho taught, trying to be an older brother with Azo. Empress Dowager Ji Zoi endured in Jikong, but due to her weak body, she fainted in front of him. Looking at Empress Dowager Ji Zoi, who was in a coma, and Jikong flashed a thought in her mind, wanting a needle to pierce her acupuncture point. But in the end, he still didn't ruthlessly take action. He couldn't help but sink into the memories of the past. In the past, Empress Dowager Ji Zoi was also the princess of the Divine Kingdom. The two were in love with each other dearly, but Empress Dowager Ji Zoi abandoned Jikong. Waiting until Jikong married his wife and had children, Empress Dowager Ji Zoi was forced to become friends with her uncle, who was over 60 years old. Mrs. Lin went to Jikong to beg him for help, but Jikong did not want to help his wife, so she refused Empress Dowager Ji Zoi's request. In revenge, the Empress Dowager Ji Zoi sent someone to kidnap his wife and children. Empress Dowager Ji Zoi told Jikong that Azor was working as a grandmaster in the Fairy Gate, and the people Jikong loved were all in her hands. The moral thesis test with the theme of taking water as king is about to begin. Everyone shows their talents, carrying all kinds of exam buoys. Huagong looked at each article. Some people transcribed the moral scriptures verbatim, some people wrote them without understanding anything. Jisun submitted a blank test, and Huagong asked what it meant. Jisun believes that the theme of morality is innumerable and relates to the king and the law. To explain, Huagong asked Sun Gu again, why did he only write 4 words? Sun Gu honestly replied, I don't know many words, I can only speak. Sun Gu went in a different direction, from the perspective of the people, reinterpreting the relationship between the country and the king, making Huagong and everyone else look at it with different eyes. In this exam, only Suho and Jisun passed. Huagong didn't let him pass the test because he wanted to chase Sun Gu away. Azo was very worried about Sun Gu's test, accidentally discovering that the test with Sun Gu's words did not pass, while Jisun's white test was written as pass. Azo thought that he had grasped the evidence of Huagong's cheating in the exam and warned him not to get sick in the future. In order to prevent Jisun from continuing to cling to him, Azo borrowed everywhere, paying off his debt to Jisun. Jisun confessed his love to Azo, which made Azo a little confused as Zhao said to Sun Gu, today is the day of mother's shedding. Zhao Hui deliberately gave Huagong a bottle of medicinal wine with a very high concentration, causing Huagong to drive unconscious. Sukov, Jiahue, Sun Gu, Jisun and Panji sneaked out of the Fairy Gate. Everyone made an appointment to act individually, and now they will gradually gather. Jisun returned to the palace and told the Empress Dowager Ji Exo that she had to grow up in hardship and be strong in the ranks of roses to be able to sit on the throne. Sun Gu returned home and worshipped his mother with Azo. While chatting with Azo, Sun Gu accidentally missed a word, making Azo doubt Sun Gu's identity again. Panji accidentally saw his father get off the horse for Uncle Rong Shao, and a part of his hatred was raised in his heart. Suho's sister mistook Panji for Suho and squeezed his buttocks from behind, but was startled to find out that Panji was screaming in fear. Suho just passed by and saw this scene, thinking that Panji was bullying his sister, and almost fought with Panji and was knocked unconscious by his sister. The 5 people secretly returned to the Fairy Gate on time, but unfortunately they were still discovered and punished by Huagong. Sun Gu asked Jisun if he really liked his sister. Jisun neither confirmed nor denied. Because of the fainting of Sukov, Panji took the initiative to make peace, and the relationship between the two improved. Suzan, Suho's sister, went to the pawn shop owner to ask for a letter to Suho. In the letter, Suzan sincerely apologized to Suho and promised to clarify the misunderstanding. Enzo was a little lying, confiding to Suzan that he seemed to have some affection for his brother Sun Gu. So it was very contradictory, hoping that he was not my brother and hoping that he was really my brother. Empress Dowager Ji Exo has always felt unwell recently, but she is not at ease with anyone in the palace, so she only has to let Jikong come to see her. Jikong recalled that a few days ago, Uncle Deng Shu came to him and told him that the palace was full of eyes and ears and Uncle Rong Shu's spies. Uncle Deng Shu's purpose is to want the Empress Dowager to gradually deteriorate. Jikong realized that Empress Dowager Ji Exo had been chronically poisoned, but he did not say it. In order to liquidate Inzhou, Su Zhan drunk the person who decorated Inzhou's medical room extremely gorgeous. But Zhao thought that the Zhan coin was too wasteful and it was better to use that money for good deeds. Hua Gong taught the martial arts to the roses. The martial arts of the master were very strong. Only the Zhan coin could compare. Looking at Ji Xunsong's move, there was a little doubt in his heart. Hua Gong planned to lead the roses to perform at the Mid-Autumn Festival, so that people have a new view of the royal family and King Jinheng, strengthening the authority of the royal family. In order to stop Hua Gong's plan, Deng Shu learned about Song Gu. He rushed into the fairy gate to find Song Gu and told him that the ghost was mysteriously piled up because he had seen the true vibration of King Jinheng. Therefore, the royal family, including Empress Dowager GXO and King Jinheng, are all common enemies of him and Song Gu. Uncle Deng Shu wanted to use this excuse to entice Song Gu, but Song Gu did not agree. However, from there, Song Gu learned that King Jinheng was the perpetrator of the murder of the ghost, and decided not to ignore King Jinheng. Hua Gong told the roses that the Mid-Autumn Festival was coming. He wanted to organize the roses to perform music for the royal family and the 3 stars, and especially invite Gu Duk, who is knowledgeable about music from the convenience village, to teach music to the roses. Gu Duk is the great chef who has nurtured the dual taste in the convenience village. Gu Duk began to teach the roses all kinds of musical instruments and dances, but the ability to coordinate the movements of Song Gu and Pansy made Gu Duk very worried. Song Gu and Pansy, in order to keep up with everyone, worked hard to practice dance after school. Zhou sent the music of Song Gu's hardest dance move and took the initiative to show it to him. As a result, they are both equally clumsy. After a period of practice, the choreography of the roses became more and more delicate. Even King Gong had to admire and praise. Su Zhan sent Pansy a love letter expressing his feelings. Pansy kept the letter very carefully. At the same time, Pansy's father also sent him a letter. Tell him to sabotage King Gong's plan. Zhou went to Gu Duk and asked about the story of Song Gu in the village, and knew that Song Gu was not his brother. Song Gu picked a bouquet of flowers for Zhou. Zhou threw the bouquet on the ground and questioned him. Who are you after all? Song Gu frankly told Zhou that she was her brother's friend, and her brother had piled up the carpet under the sword of the forbidden guards to protect him, because she once promised her brother that she would protect Zhou on his behalf. That's why he impersonated his identity. Zhou was extremely heartbroken and ran to the riverbank alone and sobbed. Su Zhan saw Zhou crying incessantly. His heart was like a knife, bullying Zhou that no matter who it is, as long as he dares to bully her, he will definitely kill that person. Zhou said that no one bullied her, it was all her fault. Su Zheng couldn't ask any more questions. She just quietly walked with Zhou until she got home. On the other hand, Sun Gu saw that Zhou was heartbroken and he was also very sad, but he was helpless. He saw Su Zhan following Zhou and hurriedly asked Su Zhan if Zhou was okay. Su Zhan knew that Zhou was heartbroken because of Sun Gu, and in his heart he was both jealous and admired. Empress Dowager Su Zhao wanted to completely obey her, so she welcomed back the princess who was convalescing outside her, and asked Hua Gong to arrange the princess to enter the fairy gate. Teaching the roses to hold the poetry flag is actually to supervise Hua Gong. Hua Gong naturally understood Empress Dowager Su Zhao's intentions, so she did not agree to accept the princess' affection. Empress Dowager Su Zhou threatened him if she did not comply, she would torture Su Zhan, Hua Gong's nephew. Hua Gong had to compromise, agreeing to let the princess enter the fairy gate. Su Zhan went to Zhou, once again expressing his feelings, but Zhou only remembered Sun Gu. Su Zhan was very heartbroken but did not give up, swearing that one day he would definitely make Zhou fall in love with him. Calling the princess on time to the fairy, the roses were buzzing about her. It was thought that the purpose of her coming to the fairy gate was to look for the horse. The princess went to the riverbank alone to rest, almost bitten by a poisonous snake, and Sun Gu promptly came to save her. Just when she was about to kill the snake, Sun Gu let it go again and said that the snake with venom was not at fault, just be careful. Sun Gu left a good impression on the princess. Sun Gu finally mustered up all the courage to find Zhou, but Zhou still refused to forgive him, given that he cheated on his feelings. Sun Gu had to leave, silently protecting Zhou. Su Zhan went to Zhou, asked how Pansy was doing lately, and expressed his nostalgia for him. Zhou went to Pansy, warning him to be honest with his best friend, Su Zhan. Don't displease her and give Su Zhan's letter to Pansy. Gu helps every day to lead the Languettes to practice matchmaking for the Mid-Autumn Festival. Everyone was eager and full of confidence. But Pansy was worried because his father had told him to think of a way to ruin the party. Don't let Hua Gong achieve his goal. Rongshao sat and waited for Hua Gong to humiliate in front of everyone. Right at the Mid-Autumn Festival, Su Zhan invited Zhou to watch his performance at the banquet. and said that he only danced for her alone. Azo still didn't move. After that, Azo stumbled upon Sun Gu. Sun Gu took the initiative to make amends, but Azo pretended not to pay attention to him. The Mid-Autumn Festival banquet is about to start, and the Roses are actively preparing everything. Pansy sneaked away, intending to destroy the stand used for the performance. Since then, it has destroyed the termite singing performance of the lotus flowers. But he was discovered by his taste, so he had to pause his intentions. Su Zhong went to the Empress Dowager Ji-Exo and asked her why she had put the princess in the fairy gate. Empress Dowager Ji-Exo said that the princess was his future concubine. Ji-Sun firmly said that with the letter of the king, he had the right to decide who would be his wife. This scene was seen by Azo, and Azo suddenly understood, and it turned out that Ji-Sun was the king of madness. Empress Dowager Ji-Zou's guards found out that Zhao eavesdropped on the conversation between Empress Dowager Ji-Exo and Ji-Sun, immediately knocked Azo unconscious and brought it in front of the Empress Dowager Ji-Exo. Pansy's father came up to him, asking him how far things had gone. Pansy questioned what was so scary after all. If he really values you, he must care about how you feel. At this time, the figs arranged by Uncle Deng Chao destroyed all the performance props of the lotus. The Roses were very angry. They all misunderstood that it was done by Pansy. Gu Duk knew that he was very worried, but he thought that this would not make it difficult for him. Gu Duk used damaged musical instruments to make the Roses perform a unique song and dance performance, received applause and cheers from the people. Uncle Rong Chao and the others left angrily. Ji Jun learned that Azor had heard the conversation between him and the Empress, very worried about Azor's safety, rushed in to save her. Azor was forbidden by the guards to bring him in front of Empress Dowager Jisu. The Empress Dowager asked her if she had seen King Jin Hung. Azor said in fear if Jisu was the king, then she had seen the king. Empress Dowager Jisu orders Azor to be killed, and at the crucial moment Jisu saves Azor. Empress Dowager Jisu was extremely astonished, and shouted at him to retreat. But Jisu loudly declares that he is the king, has the right to decide anyone's life. Empress Dowager Jisu ordered her subordinates, by any means, to divide Azor and Jisu. Azor knew that Jisu was King Jin Hung. Thinking about my disrespectful behavior in the past, worrying for my own life, especially before anyone who saw the king's true face was wiped out. Jisu said that she would definitely protect Azor. At this time, Songgu went to Azor, anxiously asking where she had gone. Jisu quickly replies that she is with him. Jisu orders her subordinates to protect Azor. Anyone who intends to harm her, kill her. Songgu felt unhappy, took Azor to Mamu's grave and reminisced about Mamu's nostalgia for Azor when he was born. Azor hugged the grave, crying incessantly. Songgu said to Azor, whether she wanted to or not, he would forever protect her like a brother. Late at night, Hui Kyung Kong visited Anzi Kong, telling him that on the night of the Mid-Autumn Festival, Azor was brought into the palace by Empress Dowager Jisu. I'm afraid that Empress Dowager Jisu wants to take action against Azor, so please be careful. Suho thinks that Panji is not the one who sabotaged the props at the Mid-Autumn Festival, because with Panji's personality he wouldn't do such sneaky things. Sujin went to Panji and was about to confess his love to him. Then Suho rushed in, mistakenly thinking that his sister was bullied by Panji. Lin fights with Panji and Sujin knocks Suho unconscious again. After that, Suho forced Sujin to ask the family again. Sujin explains all of his previous misunderstandings to Suho and warns him not to fight with Panji in the future. Hua Gong found the Lungors, a group of rangers selected from the youth of the grassroots class, in charge of posterity, studying and practicing martial arts with the Roses. Torong Shu brought Kong Sung into the fairy gate, being the head of the Panji, and also to supervise him. As for Jiang Xiao, he chose to be the head of Songgu. The purpose was not to defeat him. Songgu knew the story, and frankly said that he had never let anyone humble him. Azo always avoids Jijuan but is still found by Jijuan. Azo is worried about his safety and treats Jijuan with respect. Jijuan once again confesses his love to Azo. Jiang Xiao and Songgu practiced horseback riding and archery, but Songgu's skills were too poor. Jiang Xiao had no hope for him. Azo saw this and was very impatient in his heart. Songgu to pass the exam, not to be expelled from the fairy gate. Practicing hard day and night, Azo is always by Vu's side. Songgu found out, pretended to fall off his horse and was unconscious, and Azo hurriedly ran over to see. Seeing that Songgu seemed to have no signs of life, she cried and expressed her feelings for him. Songgu heard it, suddenly hugged Azo in his arms and gave her a kiss, and then he fainted again. After the examination, the doctor told Azo that Songgu was very seriously ill and his life was critical. Azo was extremely worried, standing by Songu who was in a coma day and night, using his heat loss to warm him. Days later, Songu wakes up to find himself in the middle of coughing and sewing. At this time, Songu knew that in the 3 days he was in a coma, Azo had not slept at all. Azo wakes up from fatigue and asks about Songu's health, but Songu is very cold. Azo was very upset because of this. He didn't understand why Songu was treating him like that. He was just looking for a Suzun to confide in. Dijuan went to Songu. He probably shouldn't treat Azo like that. During the argument, the two did not notice that the bracelet representing the king's identity had fallen to the ground and was faded by Kongsung. Songu and Dijuan were very worried when they found out that they had lost their bracelets, and searched all over the front door but could not find them. Kongsung gave the bracelet to Deng Shu. Uncle Deng Shu just looked at it and knew that this was a symbol of King Jin Hung and suspected that King Jin Hung was hiding in the ranks of village flowers. Uncle Deng Shu thought that he would plot to pull the snake out of the line. Azo alone by the river continued to be confused, accidentally dropping his shoes into the river just in time to be faded by Songu. Songu came to return the shoes. Azo asked him why he pretended not to see him. Had he forgotten to kiss him? Songu frankly said that he remembered very well, but in front of so many people. He was afraid that when he saw Azo, he wouldn't be able to help but hug her, so he tried to stay away from her. Azo was very happy to hear that, and he took the Songu. Both of them understand each other's feelings and officially fall in love. Empress Dowager Jisoo is still guarding in her heart about Azo, thinking that she would break the holy essence system that she had preserved. It may even become an obstacle for King Jin Hung to inherit the throne in the future. Therefore, the Empress Dowager Jisoo went to the princess to secretly kill Azo, insulting the princess to ask Azo to be her personal doctor. Azo remembers that the Empress Dowager Jisoo once wanted to kill her, so there was a little resistance to the princess sent by the Queen Mother, but she couldn't refuse. In his heart, Azo was vaguely worried and asked the princess to continue to supervise the Roses and Hua Gong at the fairy gate, and arbitrarily declared that the fairy disciple was about to hold a life-and-death battle. Only the winning Roses in the contest can receive passing points. In order to quickly improve the martial arts of the Roses, she divided the Roses into groups of 4 people and conducted a hunting competition. On the other hand, she sent someone to tell Azo, lied that she was seriously ill, and asked Azo to come under the banyan tree to see a doctor. Azo obediently arrived at the appointed location. At this time, the princess was hiding in the darkness and was going to shoot Azo. At the critical moment, Songu released his body to support the arrow for Azo. Jizuan heard the noise and rushed over, and saw the princess running away. Lin immediately chased her and warned her if he dared to touch Azo and Songu in the future, he would not spare her. Uncle Deng was super sneaky and left the game, openly pasting the announcement in the fairy gate, "In the lotus flower there is a king." The Roses were all very confused, and Jizuan and Azo were even more astonished when they saw it. Fortunately, Hua Gong appeared in time to solve the crisis. Everyone was buzzing about that announcement. Han Sung, Zhao Hui and others after analyzing, feeling that Jizuan and Songu may be one of them king. Some people believe, some people still ask second. Azo was worried about Jizuan. Jizuan said that he was not afraid of being killed by his favorite guests, but he is afraid that one day he will really become a king. How to be a good king. Hua Gong recalled Zizan's previous expressions as well as Empress Dowager Zitso's attitude. He also began to doubt his identity, feeling that Jizuan might be the king of the madness. As for the taste buds after seeing the fox, it was decided to find the king among the Roses to avenge Mamu. Because someone saw the drawing on the lipstick bracelet he wore before was the same as the drawing on the fox. The lotus flowers immediately rumored that Lip Gu was the king and everyone avoided him. Sun Gu told Jizuan if he found the king, he would kill him. When the princess heard the rumors, she excitedly went to Sun Gu, mistaking him for her brother. Sun Gu warned the princess again, don't harm Azo in the future, otherwise don't blame him unintentionally. Empress Dowager Zitso heard that there was a king in the lotus and was extremely worried. Uncle Rong Chao questioned Empress Dowager Zitso even more in front of the court. That the king of the wild was hiding in the ranks of the lotus flowers, Empress Dowager Zitso openly denied. Uncle Deng Super told Panji to find the king among the roses, and promised that if the king was eliminated, he would support Panji to sit down. Panji was very confused, not even in the mood to laugh at Susan. Susan didn't know what was going on, thinking that Panji didn't hate her, so she was very sad. And Ji Kong told Sun Gu to protect the Azo. Sun Gu told him that the king, who had killed Mamu, was among the lilies, and he wanted to avenge Mamu. Empress Dowager Zitso knew that Sun Gu was misunderstood as a king. Think that this is a good opportunity to use the false king to protect the king. So he went to Ji Kong, asking Ji Kong to meet his request, otherwise Azo would lose his life. And Ji Kong was completely angry, determined to confront Empress Dowager Zitso and King Jinhung. King Gong went to Jizuan, implying that Jizuan was King Jinhung, and bowed down in front of him. Empress Dowager Zitso asked to summon Suho. The princess asked Azo to come to her doctor, deliberately letting Azo wipe her feet. Azo was very angry, saying that he respected his brother's face, so he didn't compare. The princess asked who the king was, and Azo did not answer. Songu suspected that Jizuan was the king, but he regarded Jizuan as a close friend and did not dare to harm him. The martial arts competition was about to start, and Empress Dowager Zitso and the ministers were all invited to watch. Torongshu proposed to let his high-level martial arts guard fight with the representative of the lotus flower. And only by name, Songu went to war. No matter who lost his life, the other side was not punished. Songu agreed to represent the honor of the flower in battle. Despite being seriously injured, Songu still won a spectacular victory over the guard. The lilies are chalk, they sow gold. After the fight, Jizuan came to Songu and asked him if he was injured. Songu uses his sword to ask if Jizuan is king. Just when Azo saw it, he hurriedly stopped Songu and swore that Jizuan was not the king. Jizuan was very touched by Azo's actions, and at the same time blamed himself for often involving her. Azo comforted Jizuan not to think too much and took the initiative to offer to teach Songu swordsmanship, but he refused. Empress Dowager Zitso warned Jizuan, if you want to ascend the throne favorably, follow her arrangements. Songu still wondered if Jizuan was the king or not and asked Hua Gong about Zizan's status. Hua Gong reminded Songu not to venture into the abyss involving the king, otherwise he would be shattered. The two neighboring countries, South Buson and Bex, constantly harassed and provoked Shinla. The ministers in the afternoon, one faction advocated starting a war, the other advocated reconciliation. Empress Dowager Zitso decided to choose someone from among the roses to go to the south of Buson and Bex to make peace. She was going to choose Panji and the others, but Hua Gong asked her to decide the final choice herself. Empress Dowager Zitso asked Shui to go with the roses to make peace, and Shui Sang asked to take Azo with her. Songu always avoids Azo so that everyone voluntarily registers to join the fake country delegation to South Buson. No one wants to go because this trip is the most deadly. At this time, the sausage brought Azo to the front of the lotus flowers, declaring that he would go to a neighboring country with Azo to make peace. Songu, Suho, Panji, and Jizuan knew about it, and they all took the initiative to register to go. Empress Dowager Zitso heard that Jizuan will join the flower caravan to South Buson. She was extremely angry because she had sent a secret letter to Jizuan asking him to remain immobile and not to go to the country. Susan heard that Panji was leaving, very worried, and immediately cut off one of her hair, wrapping it carefully. Send Panji as an engagement charm, telling him to take care of it. She will always wait for him to return. Panji was touched by Susan's feelings and the two officially became a couple. Sakmung and Azo, Songu and others formed a fake parish group, and together they went to the neighboring country to complete the task of reconciliation. Songu, Suho and the other roses, each carrying a secret mission, with their own affections. Songu asked why he brought Azo with him. The ghost replied that the only roses she trusted, Songu, could also accompany her. At this time, Shenmeng suddenly fainted, and Songu hurriedly picked her up, but was seen by Azo. Azo was very heartbroken. Songu told Azo, for his own reasons, he was cold to her, and the two finally reconciled. A group of peasants with sticks surrounded the residence of the sausage, intending to steal the treasure they had brought to southern Buson. Suho and the others tried to kill these farmers but were stopped by Zizan. He said that these poor people were forced by life, so they robbed. The next day, Songu and the others discovered that the food and treasures they had brought with them had been stolen when they were furious. Azikong said goodbye to Queen Zizar, saying that he would go to the village to cure the spreading epidemic. Empress Dowager Zizar tried to hold him back, but he still resolutely and coldly refused, because he was completely desperate for her. Because the silver was robbed, the sausages and others had to sleep outside. Azo came up with a way, telling stories to the villagers, building a good relationship with them, and asking for food for the sausages and others. Suho and Pansy go together to pick up firewood, and the relationship between the two grows even closer. Zizan once again expressed his feelings for Azo to Songu. And Songu didn't hide from telling Zizan that he also needed Azo. Azo brings food to the sausage is sensitized by Azo. Azo tells the ghost that Songu is absolutely not the king and therefore not her brother either, and asked him why he took me to South Buson. Sang said that she simply wanted to keep Songu by her side. Jio Hui, Han Sung and the others were all extremely worried about Songu's trip. Zizan Kongsung said harsh words saying that Uncle Rongshu would not spare the fake group, Songgu and the others would not be able to return. It turned out that Uncle Deng Shu had sent the scar-faced man and others to steal the property of the fake country troop and secretly collude with the male Prince Buson. Tell the prince that among the lotus flowers is King Jinhung, tell him to eliminate the king from among the lotus flowers and support him on the throne. Promise that in the future he will definitely cut the land to give it to the Prince of Buson. Prince Buson said that this was a beneficial exchange. Therefore, when the fake delegation came to South Buson, the Prince of Nam Buson was extremely arrogant and disrespectful. Shen Meng and the others tried to be patient. The prince made a request that if Sinla wanted to make peace, he would either make peace or cut off the land to give it to the southern Buson. Azor examines a mute child but is mistaken by the South Buson soldiers for Sinla's thief who runs into South Buson and is taken into custody. Songgu heard the news that he was going to break into the Azor prison, but the team was also taken into custody by the guards of the southern Buson palace. He went to the prison to save the group of roses but was encouraged by Songgu to fight so that these things would not happen again. He regained his spirit, confronting the prince. The scripture said that he would not blend in nor would he cut the land, much less let him kill the lotus. The prince allowed the illegal hunting Sinla people to cross the border in front of the lotus flowers, including Azor. He asked the king of the lotus flowers to take responsibility, otherwise he would behead these people and send them back to Sinla. Songgu sees Azor captured in front of him, about to be Leonid, forced to admit that he is the king. In order to save Azor, Songgu pretended to be the king of Sinla, was left alone by the male prince of Buson and threatened to be taken hostage. Songgu used a plan to encourage the general, meaning that the act of arresting the fake country group empty-handed was very despicable. Not as bright as the great sword duel with him. The prince agreed but made a condition: if Songgu lost, Sukmung would have to stay here and the other roses would be beheaded. Songgu is taken back to the prison and tells Suho and the others that he is about to fight the prince. This match will decide whether they can return safely or not. Zizan and the others were worried about Songga's safety. Songgu was very calm, saying that he had someone to protect and he would definitely not lose. Seeing the shadow of Songga's back leaving, Zizan felt very complicated. Hui Kaiongkong went to Huagong, telling him about the dangerous situation of Songgu and the others in southern Buson. He also affirmed that because of the uncle washing the game behind his back, Songgu and the roses would not be able to return alive. Huagong decided to take action to protect Zizan. At the same time, Zizan's relatives came to beg Empress Dowager Zitso to come forward to save Zizan. Empress Dowager Zitso went to the ambassadors to discuss sending troops to rescue her. But the ministers were worried about their own safety and did not agree to go to the army. At this time, the lotus flowers in the heavens also heard about the envoys. Everyone was indignant, asking to go to the south of the Buson to save Songgu and the others. On the way to the arena, the prince's general deliberately injured Songga's hand. As soon as he started to fight, Songgu was slashed by the prince many times. Songgu suddenly burst out with hidden power, helping him fight the prince with all his might. Both of them risked their lives to kill each other. With a strong will, Songgu finally defeated the prince. The prince was forced to agree to release the princess into the envoys. But he still wanted to kill the Sinla people who crossed the border into Azor. Suho, Bangzi and others escorted the princess back home. Songgu and Zizan planned to take advantage of the late night when there were no people to rob the prison. But he was not careful to be discovered by the soldiers guarding the prison. The two risked their lives to take the people in prison and Azor to escape. But he was surrounded by generals and soldiers. Fortunately, thanks to Suho and Bangzi in time to come to the rescue, they assigned cooperation. Bring the people into Azor to escape from the Nambujan prison. But unexpectedly, the prince deliberately let them go, just to chase them afterwards. The prince led the soldiers to shoot and kill the fleeing people, and Suho was also hit by an arrow. Songgu and the others couldn't fight back. The prince besieged Songgu, Jizuan and the people of Sinla, just 1,000 pounds hanging by the hair. Huagong led the roses to rescue the envoy and the people of Sinla. The prince was forced to try to remove the delicious smell to his mouth, but saying that it won't be easy to ignore for Songgu. The people of Sinla and the roses, they cheered with joy at this victory. Empress Dowager Zitso knew that the roses in the envoy were all safe and sound. Just breathed a sigh of relief, and Uncle Dunkxia was very angry because of the victorious return of the lotus. Jizuan accidentally caught Songgu and Azor dating. Hearing the two of them express their feelings for each other, they were even more uncomfortable in their hearts. Jizuan has always been on guard in his heart about Songgu impersonating King Xinheng and winning the heart of Azor. Although he knew that Songgu was only pretending to be the king in a reluctant situation. But Songga's courage and poor intellect made Jizuan feel inferior. thinking that he was a real king, but he had to live in seclusion under the protection of Empress Dowager Zitso. Jizuan was even more depressed. Among the Sinla people rescued in South Busan, there was a boy whose mother was killed by male Busan soldiers. Before dying, the mother entrusted her child to Azor. Azor asked the pawn shop owner to adopt this child. Azor helped Jizuan change the medicine and thanked him for helping Songu with his name. Jizuan always thought that Songu was the king, so he thought that he was only doing what he should do. Songu took the opportunity to visit Jizuan to meet Azor. Azor once again thanked Songu for risking his life to save her. Songu says that Azor is everything to him. As long as she is safe, everything will be fine. Experiencing the tribulation in southern Busan, Azor and Songu became even more close. In order to control the roses, the Empress Dowager Zitso promoted the princess as the original flower. At the same time, in order not to make Songu, she appointed Azor as a flower, keeping her inside. Empress Dowager Zitso made it clear to Songu that he continued to pretend to be the king. On the one hand, to protect the real king, on the other hand, to take advantage of more time for her. Songu was very dissatisfied and distressed by this arrangement, but could not do anything else. The king got up the roses to study the scriptures and deliberately let Jizuan read the master's lesson, in order to imply to him that the king must take the people first. If the people complained, the king would also become a married soldier. The epidemic broke out all over the country, medicines were scarce, and people piled up in droves. Poor people in Mang Mang village are also heavily affected by the epidemic. Because the people were not allowed to enter the capital, indeed Song could only think of a way to bring medicine to the village. He heard that Deng Shu had spared the medicine, so he went to the house and asked Deng Shu to deliver the medicine to save the people. But Uncle Deng Shu does not care about the quality of life of the people. They just want to wait for the epidemic to spread, pushing up drug prices to make a profit. Empress Dowager Jizuan was willing to see the lotus flowers in the fake country delegation join her. Jizuan went to the toilet and went to the place where he used to play when he was a child but was discovered by the princess. She vaguely felt that the person in front of her was her brother. Jizuan initially refused to do so but couldn't stand the princess questioning and had to admit his identity. Uncle Deng Shu scolded Panji for having no merit in this trip, could not eliminate the king, and decided to abandon him. Panji came to confess. Uncle Deng Shu said he wanted to be crowned king himself. Panji agreed to help Deng Shu achieve his goal. Panji felt very guilty for his actions and he was extremely upset in his heart. At this time, Susan heard that Panji had returned to the capital safely and took the initiative to look for him. But Panji was no longer in the mood, thinking that he was not worthy of Susan, so he rejected her. Susan is very heartbroken, in danger of going to Sun Go. It is said that his performance in South Busan made the people of Sinla extremely excited. If the people knew that he was a false king, they would definitely be very disappointed and say that he would help him become a real king. Jizuan was very self-reproachful for his meekness. The king encouraged him. Daring to admit his meekness was also a kind of bravery. As for evasion and self-blame, those are also things that a king has to bear. Empress Dowager Jizuan told Uncle Deng Shu that she wanted to withdraw from the main ceremony, so that the king could sit down. In fact, he wanted to take advantage of Sun Go, so that Uncle Deng Shu completely believed that Sun Go was king, thereby protecting Jizuan. Sun Go went to Jizuan asking him if the king was hiding just to protect himself. He killed all the people who saw him, and he didn't even care about the quality of life of the people. What does it mean to be alive for such a king? Jizuan said that he was not uninterested in the quality of others. Rather, they are helpless in the face of these things, even hidden. Jizuan came to Azo and asked her if she was willing to be a normal husband and wife with him, living an idyllic life. He is willing to trade the throne and lipstick as long as he can be his own king. Azo told him, don't use her as an excuse, much less hide and back down. Be brave and be king. Therefore, that night, Jizuan sneaked into Uncle Rong Shu's house alone, intending to assassinate him. He reveals his true identity and warns him that he is his king. If he dares to do something in the future, he will not spare him. At the same time, Uncle Deng Shu, because he wanted to ascend the throne himself, decided to get rid of lipstick. He let Mrs. Jizuan be an insider. Fai likes the guest who sneaks into the fairy gate and wants to take action with the lipstick but is discovered by the mausoleums. The lentils and like-minded guests, due to the chaotic war during the fight, fell into a coma. Empress Dowager Jizuan saw the throne symbolizing the Holy Essence regime disappearing into nothingness. Startled to wake up in a cold sweat. Later, she saw Jizuan sitting on the throne, declaring herself the king of the God Kingdom, and criticized her for her ambition for power. Next, she saw that Jizuan was touching her neck, intending to kill her. Empress Dowager Jizuan was startled to wake up. It turned out to be just a dream. The epidemic raged in the village because there was no medicine and many people died every day. Indi worked hard but still could not save the people. Azo accidentally saw a carriage pulling a lot of boxes passing by. On the way, a few great anise were scattered. This drug is a lifeline for the convenience village. Azo followed the carriage, discovering that Uncle Deng Shu's warehouse contained a lot of anise shells. Moreover, it was about to be broken. It turned out that Uncle Deng Shu was going to wait for the epidemic to spread more and then speculate on the words. Selling drugs at a higher price than gold to make a large sum of money. Azo told this story to Hua Gong, hoping that he could come forward and solve it. Hua Gong agreed to think, and then told Azo about the incident that happened at the ferry gate last night. Azo was very worried about Sunga's safety and hurriedly ran to Sunga's place, only to find that he was kissing Sangu. It turned out that Sangu had mistaken him for Azo. Azo saw this and left with a broken heart. Sangu found out that the person in front of him was not Azo and hurriedly stood up. He questioned his true identity, but he didn't answer. After that, Azo found Sangu and asked him if he was injured last night. Sangu thought of Empress Dowager Jisu's threat because he wanted to protect Azo, so he was very cold to her. Azo returned to his room and saw that an emotion was waiting for him. Saxony says that she already knows Jisu is the king and criticizes Azo for making fun of both Sangu and Jisu's feelings. Azo retorted that he knew that Sangu didn't love him, but still fighting for him was greedy. Hui Kaiung Gong went to the Empress Dowager Jisu, asked her to stop her hands, not to harm the lotus, and return the power to the king of the palace. Empress Dowager Jisu didn't reply because of last night's preference. The roses in the ferry gate further affirmed that Sangu was the king and was very respectful of him. This made Sangu feel very uncomfortable. Jisu went to Hua Gong and asked him what he should do if he wanted to be king. Hua Gong replied that first, he had to be popular with the people, and second, he had to get rid of evil gods. Jisu thought about what he said over and over again. In the hallway, he happened to meet Sangu, but he questioned how long he planned to hide. Jisu sarcastically asked him how it felt to pretend to be a king. Dojin angrily said that he was always fighting for his nature. After listening to it, Sangha had a new look at Jisu. Hua Gong called Azo over and told her to tell Jisu and Sangu about Uncle Deng's superagic medicine, and asked the two to cooperate in solving this problem. Sangha thinks that Jisu has lived in silk velvet since she was a child, so she doesn't understand the suffering of the people. Jisu said that with the letter of being a king, he understands the importance of poor people. The two decided to cooperate, and Suho began to suspect Panji because of the night of the affair. I didn't see the banner. Just when Panji was thinking about it, Sujin came to him, once again expressing his love and nostalgia for velvet. Panji is touched by Sujin's feelings, frankly saying that he is a bad person, not wanting to involve her. Sujin learns Panji's true feelings, holds his hand to comfort him, and says he's not a bad person. Sangu, Jisu, Suho and Zel happily planned to steal Deng Siu's medicine storehouse. They decided not to take Panji with them this time because they didn't want to make it difficult for him. Unexpectedly, the conversation of the four people was eavesdropped on by Panji. Panji knows about Sungus' plan, but he doesn't tell Uncle Deng about it and pretends to be drunk. Looking for Uncle Deng, who was super crying and telling suffering, he also pretended to want to cultivate. Success attracts the attention of everyone in the government. Sangu and three others took the opportunity to squeeze in. Just as they were about to leave with the medicine, they were surrounded by the scar-faced man and his accomplices. Jisu single-handedly fought against 10 people, defeating the scar-faced man's team. Successfully brought medicine to the village. A Jikong used these precious medicines to save the lives of the people in the village. After this action, Suho and the others had something else to say about Panji. While Sangu and the others robbed Rong Xiao's medicine storehouse, a Zhou was brought in by Empress Dowager Jisu. Empress Dowager Jisu thinks that the reason Jisu repeatedly resists orders is because she is fascinated by a Zhou. Therefore, she made a Zhou as the original flower, and the ultimate fate of the original flower is to dedicate himself to the divine kingdom. Empress Dowager Jisu ordered a search to tell a Zhou that she was only taking advantage of her as a raw flower. Only then can the roses be controlled. When the whole flower becomes an animal egg, she will get rid of the whole flower. Sangu worriedly went to Huqiangkong and told him the story of a Zhou. Huqiangkong said that Empress Dowager Jisu only took advantage of a Zhou to control the lotus and would eventually kill her. Only Sangu as king can protect a Zhou. Sangu questioned who he was after all. Why do you always incite him to be king? Huqiangkong told him everything. It turned out that Sangu was the son of Huqiangkong and the former flower of the Rong dynasty. It was the Empress Dowager Jisu who killed his mother. Empress Dowager Jisa summoned Huagong to come, declaring that a Zhou and sausage would make the whole flower, and to promise to hand over the command of the flower to 2 original flowers. At this time, Huagong knew that the purpose of Empress Dowager Jisu's establishment of Lotus was to take advantage of them, not to protect the divine kingdom. Huagong decided to change the situation. Han Sung's grandfather wanted to rejuvenate the family. He didn't spare the devil to get off the horse for Uncle Deng Shu. The condition given by Uncle Deng Shu is that he only needs to kill the king among the lilies. Uncle Deng Shu will connect with their family. Grandpa Han Sung asked Jansel to do this. Tell him to apply poison to the knife, looking for an opportunity to injure Lipgu. If he fails, he and Han Sung will take the monastic medicine. Han Sung didn't know his grandfather's secret. Suho asks you if you really like Su Jian, and reminded him that with the current confrontation of the 2 clans, both parents would disagree. Ban Ji replied that he liked her very much and would try to convince the family. Grandpa Han Sung asked Han Sung to bring poison to Jansel, accompanied by a piece of paper written that must be killed. Han Sung didn't understand the meaning and immediately handed the things to Jansel. In order to protect Han Sung, Jansel decided to go against his conscience and kill Sun Gu. So he took the excuse of martial arts and fought with Sun Gu. Just when Han Sung passed by, he immediately understood the meaning of the piece of paper. Immediately released his body to support the sword for Sun Gu. Han Sung died like this. Jansel couldn't accept Han Sung's departure and planned to cultivate. Sun Gu came to him, handed the letter Han Sung wrote to his grandfather and told him to continue to be his headman. In the letter, Han Sung wrote, "I have grown up. I must be responsible for my mistakes. Please don't blame Jansel anymore." After reading the letter, Jansel sobbed and sadly took Han Sung's body back to the fairy gate. Passing the emblem on others is extremely merciful. Huagong took this opportunity to say to the roses, "Be your own rose, don't forget your responsibility and status. That way you won't lose your friends." Uncle Deng Xiu led a group of ministers to the opinion of the Empress Dowager. Forcing her to abdicate, the political situation immediately became unstable. Hui, when he was stunned, told Ndich Song about Azo becoming a primitive flower, instigating him to risk his life with him to support Sun Gu on the throne. Ndich Song made it clear to the Empress Dowager that she would support Sun Gu as king, and to say that Sun Gu is Hui's son when he is overwhelmed and tolerant. He is also a holy core qualified to sit on the throne. Azo befriended the palace maidens, just when they were having fun, excitedly told Azo about Sun Gu being attacked by Jansel. Although he was very worried, Azo calmly said that Sun Gu would definitely be safe. Azo and Sausage are arranged to come from the path of the original flower of the previous dynasty, Princess Nam Mo, to worship. Sun Gu knew Azo's journey, related to her province. At the moment when the 2 were hugging each other emotionally, then I like the guests sent by the Queen Dowager to shoot arrows towards Sun Gu. Azo supported that arrow of wisdom for him. The Forbidden Guard then surrounded Sun Gu and Azo, intending to kill the grass at the root. The guard next to Ji Jun took action to prevent the guard from letting Sun Gu take Azo away, and said that he had been instructed by King Jin Hung that no one should harm Sun Gu and Azo. The princess also ordered the guards to obey the orders of King Jin Hung. Thanks to that, the life of Azo and Lipstick can be preserved. Sun Gu took the hit Azo home and Ji Kong panicked and hurriedly operated on Azo. Fortunately, the wound was not life-threatening. Azo temporarily saved his life. Sun Gu recounted the whole incident to Ji Kong. That day, the ministers argued again about the Empress Dowager Ji abdicating in front of the court. Ji Jun appears and declares in front of everyone that he is King Jin Hung. Empress Dowager Ji so asked Ji Jun to continue to be anonymous. She would protect him and handle the main affairs. At the same time, he advised him not to act thoughtlessly. Ascension to the throne without such preparation may lead to death. It even broke the holy core lineage. Ji Jun resolutely said that the days of winning this escape should end. He can take responsibility for himself. Even if he regrets it later, he will not regret it. Sun Gu went to Hui Kite Song to ask about his mother's affairs. Hui Kite Song told him about the original flower Junjiang. That year, although Empress Dowager Ji so killed Junyang, she spared the baby in her womb. Hopefully, this child can live peacefully in a normal situation. Sun Gu momentarily could not accept the sudden twist of his fate. Hui Kite Song insisted on bringing lip gloss to the throne. Uncle Dong Super called the maid next to the Empress Dowager Ji So. It turned out that he had passed the maid next to the Empress Dowager to put chronic poison into the tea of the Empress Dowager Ji So. Empress Dowager Ji So has been drinking this tea for 10 years and has recently developed symptoms of poisoning. Uncle Deng is super determined to wait for Empress Dowager Ji So to die. There's no one to support King Jin Hung anymore, then he can ascend the throne. Ji-sun's ascension to the throne caused a great shock in the Fairy Gate, and everyone was talking about his status. Hua Gong was dismissed from his position as the head of the Moon Room and left the Fairy Gate. The deputy fairy announced this to the Roses, and the fairy immediately became chaotic. Empress Dowager Ji-so learned that she had spared Sun Gu. She was extremely angry, and she justified that it was the king's order. Empress Dowager Ji-so angrily said that she was the king of the Divine Kingdom and then fainted. Everywhere the song is spread, the King of Kings is Sun Gu, Lang and Lang is Ji-sun. Political upheaval was about to occur. Sun Gu came to Hua Gong asking if his grandfather was qualified to be king. Hua Gong told him that being a king is not a matter of ability. Ascending the throne without a title is a rebellion. Rebellion must be based on war, which will inevitably make people complain. After hearing this, Sun Gu told Hua Gong his true identity and asked him if he had a name. Is it possible to be a king or not? Hua Gong disagreed. Ji-sun's first afternoon session after ascending the throne. Uncle Rong Shu blatantly provoked him and told the other ministers not to worship Ji-sun. He sarcastically said that Ji-sun did not have the qualifications to be king, and even went so far as to declare that he wanted to replace another king. Ji-sun sat helplessly on the ground, blaming himself for his incompetence. Uncle Deng Shu and Hui Kai cooperated, wanting to help Sun Gu ascend the throne to overthrow King Din Hung. Uncle Deng Shu secretly made an appointment to meet Sun Gu, and said that he would help him ascend the throne. Sun Gu said that this was his choice, no need for others to arrange it. A few days later, Azhou finally woke up and she went to see Azhou, advising her to leave Sun Gu. The existence of Azhou only brings danger to the lip gloss. Azhou resolutely said that she would protect her son. Sun Gu heard that Azhou had woken up, hurriedly went home to visit her and told Azhou his true identity. The commander of the Forbidden Guards was injured when chasing Sun Gu, so Su Ho temporarily took over the position of commander of the Forbidden Guards. Ji-sun came to the opinion of the Empress Dowager Ji-so. Empress Dowager Ji blamed Ji-sun's appearance, causing the royal family to be arrested and despised by others, and asked him to immediately marry the sausage so as to protect the skeleton. Ji-sun insisted that he would use the Roses to protect the royal family, not by forced marriage. The Empress Dowager angrily said that Sun Gu was the son of Hui Chi-otsong, who was also the core and would become their strongest political opponent. Ji-sun was extremely surprised and confused, and heard the folk song again, so he decided to meet Sun Gu. Sun Gu and Ji-sun faced each other with swords in the Great Hall. Sun Gu honestly said that although he hated the king very much because the king had killed his only friend Mamu, so he hoped that Ji-sun was not the king. Ji-sun took the initiative to lower his sword, sincerely saying that if killing him can prevent future killings, he is willing to sacrifice. He only hopes that he can change this divine kingdom together so that no one will be oppressed by the current regime anymore. Sun Gu also lowered his sword. The two reached a consensus, no one owed anyone anymore. Uncle Deng used their super secret with other nobles to set up Sun Gu as a puppet king while Min held power and national assets. Huakai took Lip Gu to see Uncle Deng Siu. Sun Gu said that he would join the other Roses to replace Ji-sun, and Uncle Deng Chao didn't need to do anything, just wait. Uncle Deng was super confident in her words, and the Empress Dowager easily told Ji-sun that the monarch had to be cold when necessary, even to get rid of his friends. Ji-sun said he would use the fastest and least damaging way to win over the Rose. Sun Gu approached Hua Gong, saying that he didn't want to be silent anymore, hoping to get Hua Gong's support and leave him a letter. Su Ho saw the maid next to the Empress Dowager secretly put something into the tea of the Empress Dowager, and immediately informed the Empress Dowager, advising her not to drink that tea. The Empress Dowager said that she realized it soon, but because she had something to protect, she couldn't speak. Ji-sun invited Azhou to the palace, then to the Fairy Gate, wanting to turn the Langflower into an army to protect the royal court. Sun Gu stood up and said that the Lotus Flower must be free and have the right to choose its own king to be able to plan the future of the Divine Kingdom. Therefore, whether or not to support the king is not up to the Roses, and the situation in the Fairy Gate becomes tense. Su Gong went to Sun Gu and told him that Azhou was living very well in the same flower. Sun Gu sincerely apologized to Su Gong, saying that he was not the right man for her and could not accept her. Su Ho told Ji-sun about the Empress Dowager, who was chronically poisoned. Ji-sun angrily used his sword to ask the maid next to the Empress Dowager if it was caused by Uncle Rong Shu, then sent someone to kill the maid next to the queen. At this time, Ji-sun understood how much his mother had sacrificed and endured for him. Ji-sun and the Empress Dowager finally reconciled. Ji-sun restored Hua Gong to the position of Fengyu Master. The Lotus Flowers were very happy to see Hua Gong returning. Hua Gong let the Roses choose for themselves and must be consistent with their choice. Ji-sun told Azou that the Empress Dowager was about to ask for the throne for him and thanked Azou for supporting and encouraging him. On the day of the ceremony to ask for the throne, Huichi Ungong and the ministers came to the court. The Empress Dowager looked at Ji-sun on the throne, both happy and worried. At this time, Uncle Dongshu stood up and declared that he and the other ministers were willing to support Song Gu as king. Just when Uncle Dung thought that his plan had succeeded, Suho and the Lotus Flowers swore to be loyal to the Divine Kingdom to the end. But the taste of chanting the king of the palace is long-lived, all the roses support Ji-sun as king. Song Gu exposed Uncle Dongshu's crime in front of everyone and took this opportunity to eliminate a group of anti-gods, clearing the way for Ji-sun just for the country. Just like the two of them once agreed, a true king is a king who takes care of the people, eliminates harm for the people. Song Gu believes that Ji-sun can be a good king. Hui Kai-song did not blame Song Gu but respected his choice. Ji-sun recalled the memories with Song Gu, very grateful for his trust and sacrifice for him. Empress Dowager Ji-so also had something different about Ji-sun through this incident. She knew he was no longer an innocent child but a grown man. Ji-sun said that he didn't hold any grudges against her but also thanked her for the efforts she had made for him. Empress Dowager Ji-so felt more secure when Ji-sun ascended the throne, but her illness recurred. In her dying moments, she begged in Ji-kong to stay by her side until the last moment. Persuaded by Suho, and Ji-kong stayed beside Empress Dowager Ji-so. Empress Dowager Ji-so used her last strength to tell Ji-kong that she wanted to come to him, but was helpless. Ji-kong honestly said that although he had wanted to hate her many times, he couldn't. Their lifelong love affair finally ended with the departure of Empress Dowager Ji-so. Azou was very worried about Ji-sun's coronation. Knowing that everything was going on in the spring was reassuring. Ji-sun wrote a letter to Azou telling her that the reason he kept her in the palace was because he was afraid that she would be harmed by Uncle Rongchao. Although he wanted to keep her by his side, he still wished her and Sun Gu happiness forever together. Azou finished reading the letter, ran out of the palace and hugged Lip Gu. Sun Gu devoted himself to supporting Ji-sun, and the three of them became close friends again with nothing to hide from each other. Ba Ji and Suzan also experienced many ups and downs, so they fell in love with husband and wife. Ji-sun led the Lotus, still moving forward, fulfilling their burning dreams.